The Iowa caucuses are just 3 weeks away, and the two leading Democratic candidates are now neck and neck in both Iowa and New Hampshire. In a new Marist NBC poll, Hillary Clinton leads Bernie Sanders in Iowa by only 3 points. That's within the margin of error. In New Hampshire, Sanders leads Clinton by 4 points, again within the margin of error. Tad Devine is the senior strategist for the Bernie Sanders campaign. He joins me on the phone. Tad, good to talk to you. What's behind the momentum that Bernie Sanders is seeing in Iowa?
I think Bernie's really connecting with voters in Iowa. He's got a very strong message. America's economy is rigged. It's sending most of the wealth to the top. It's held in place by a corrupt system of campaign finance. I think voters in Iowa are hearing that message, responding to it. He's got a great campaign on the ground. We've been working there for months, and I think he's really connected with voters.
If that's the case, then why isn't that same message resonating as strongly in New Hampshire, where he has had a strong and commanding lead for some time, and yet he's losing that now to Hillary Clinton?
Well, no, I think Bernie's been ahead in New Hampshire in most of the recent polling, including the NBC Marist poll that came over the weekend. There was a Fox poll on Friday. He was 13 points ahead.
But his lead is shrinking, and it's now falling within the margin of error, which means statistically they're neck and neck.
Well, there's a lot of polls in New Hampshire, and I think, in terms of the campaign, we're very happy about where we are in New Hampshire. Listen, there's only one candidate who's ever won the New Hampshire primary before. It's Hillary Clinton. So we're up against quite a formidable opponent. She beat Barack Obama there, 8 years ago. So we understand it's going to be a tough race. We've understood that from the beginning. But I think what's so good is the way people are responding to Bernie Sanders and his message. In New Hampshire, we've seen that response really from the beginning, and I think the standing that he has with voters there is built on them knowing him well. It's built on the message that he's talked about, that we've got to really start dealing with economic inequality in the society, that the time has come for us to have bold ideas like universal college education, that America should have health care for all, and not a healthcare system that eliminates tens of millions of people. So I think those issues are really resonating in Iowa and New Hampshire, and if we succeed in those states, I think they're going to resonate powerfully all across the country.
I want to ask you about Donald Trump, who has had Hillary Clinton in his sights for some time, presumably because he thinks that she's going to be the Democratic nominee. But he turned his attacks and his attention to Bernie Sanders today. Let me play what he had to say, Tad.
Sure.
Oh, that's a dream come true. This guy, he would make some president. 90% tax, everybody. Does anybody mind paying 90% tax? Because you go with Bernie, you're going to have yourself a nice 90% tax. He wants to take it all away from you. He's sort of dampening it a little bit. He wants to keep it a little bit low-key. He wants a big, fat, beautiful tax, okay? And I don't think the people here are going to go for that very easily, but I want to run against Bernie. That's my dream.
First of all, 90% tax, is there anything accurate about that, Tad?
No, there's not. And Bernie has said that the taxes on very wealthy people, Mr. Trump is a great example of that. I can assure you his taxes are going up if Bernie Sanders is president. Okay, that will definitely happen. But he's also said that the idea that he wants to pursue as president is not to hurt the middle class. The middle class has been contracting in America for decades, but instead to offer it new hope and opportunity and support. So, yes, the wealthiest Americans, people like Donald Trump, who he says makes $400 million a year, are they going to pay more in taxes? Yes, they are. Wall Street, which right now runs rampant on the economy, are they going to be reined in? Yes, they will be. But middle-class families are going to have help and support, and I think that's, Bernie's top priority as president.
And Trump says it is his dream to run against Bernie Sanders. Is it Bernie Sanders' dream to run against Donald Trump?
Well, I don't know if it's his dream, but I think he'd be very, very pleased to have a contest against the embodiment of the billionaire class that Bernie Sanders has been running against from the beginning of this campaign. Listen, Donald Trump and Bernie Sanders have fundamental disagreements about policies that we should pursue for America. For example, Mr. Trump says, we shouldn't raise the minimum wage, that would hurt our economy. Bernie Sanders believes we should have a living wage. Trump refuses to support equal pay for women. Bernie believes that the time for equal pay has come. There's a broad range of economic issues where they have fundamental disagreements, and I think the American people would appreciate the debate. And after that debate, I think Donald Trump will not be elected president, and the Republicans will probably lose control of the House and Senate as well.
Hillary Clinton had taken on Senator Sanders' stand on gun control over the weekend, and especially his unwillingness to commit to changing the law that protects gun manufacturers from lawsuits. Has his stand evolved at all since he's been in Vermont? And especially since what we've seen in the Democratic Party is that some progressives, their stand on guns and gun control has changed, especially since the Newtown massacre.
Well, listen, if we look at Bernie Sanders' record, and let's go back to the beginning when he first ran for Congress, 1988 in Vermont. He lost that election, and one of the big reasons he lost that election is he said publicly that he would vote for an assault weapons ban if he was elected to the United States House of Representatives. So Bernie Sanders, on a number of issues, whether it's the assault weapons ban or whether it's the background checks or whether it's the law to prevent these straw buyers from buying guns, he's been very supportive of common sense gun measures. He supports the president's proposals and reforms right now. He has said now for months that he is open to looking at the legislation about immunity. He was concerned about the way it impacted small gun shops in Vermont. He does not favor immunity for large gun manufacturers. So I think on these issues, I know the Clinton campaign is trying to find an issue or two where there are real differences. I just don't think this is going to be one of them, because going forward, whether it's supporting the president's policies or supporting laws for common sense gun reform, Bernie Sanders is there. There are other issues with big differences, whether it's health care or education or some of the other core economic issues, and we think the American people deserve a debate on those issues and not on issues where there are not disagreements.
Tad Devine, it's good to talk to you. Thank you so much for your time today.
Thanks, Contessa.